Welcome to It's Kelsey, where we talk about rediscovering your inner roar.
I think that fear of failure comes from us not living as our inner child would. It comes from living up in your head instead of in your heart. Welcome back to It's Kelsey. We are in my car today. Because why not? It's a beautiful day out. I'm loving that we're getting some more sunshine. I hope you're watching this if you saw the title. And if you feel like a failure, you are not a failure. Here's some reasons why we feel like we're doing that. Because I feel like I'm gonna throw this pen away if I don't move it. We feel like a failure often when we really just are not living to our fullest person, to our passion. You know when you're like a kid and you're growing up and they're like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you instantly just say something. Like some people are like, I want to be a mom. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a singer. I want to be a dancer. I want to be whatever. Like, you know that feeling? You don't sit there as a kid and be like, oh, I really want to do this. And then be like, I can't do that because of this. I can't do that because of that. You don't have that thought process as a child. I think that is the most important thing. We don't have that thought process as a child because our brains aren't developed really quite fully until about 28, I believe. But we also don't overanalyze it as a kid because we just go with that instinct, with that gut, with that feeling, with just how we have such a big intuition as a kid, and we go with it and we don't question it. The same kind of thing goes for the monkey bars. You can be older, and if you never did the monkey bars, you're gonna look at them and be like, oh my goodness, what if I slip and then my hand falls and then I break my arm and then I blah 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 blah. But as a kid, when you're younger and you just go for it, you're like, those monkey bars are pretty high, but I got this. I can do it. And you just go for it. And then you go for the next one. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm doing it. I'm doing this thing. I think a lot of us feel like a failure because at some point we were either told something about you can't do that, which who are they to say that you can't do something? Or I think that you have that feeling from a fear that you've created for yourself. A lot of our feelings and a lot of our successes and a lot of the way we live is because of a story we once told ourselves. And a lot of those times, those stories come from your younger age and come from your parents telling you something. And those stories that come from your parents telling you something can often be you deciding that what your parents said was true. It also can come from their own fears and their own insecurities that they haven't worked through yet. So say you go to move from one province to another or one state to another, and your parents say, oh my God, you can't do that, blah 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 blah, you're gonna not do this, you're gonna do that, and they put all this fear into you about moving to another place. But that could come from an insecurity of them either never moving or having bad experiences moving. And it's just their way of trying to keep you safe. Like, by keeping you safe, they're actually hurting you. And it's not an intentional way of hurting you. That's the thing. And that's why being able to say, yeah, I understand where you're coming from and why you're saying that you want me not to move. But it is my choice to move, and it's my choice to make choices about the move that are going to set me up to succeed. It's my choice to take that risk because I know in myself that I can trust myself. And I think that's another big thing, is trusting yourself. If we have parents that are over involved, or like they don't let you fall off the jungle gym because they're scared that you're going to get hurt, you don't learn a lesson from that. You don't fall and get hurt and be like, wow, okay, I knew I could trust myself, but I also now know I have a limit on certain things, or that I need to like get myself stronger for next time. You learn by doing a lot of things, and you learn by trying things. It's kind of a weird thing, actually. If you realize that something you're doing is not going according to plan, there are always things that you can do to change that. There's always something that is in your control. And if it's not in your control, it's in your best interest not to try and control it. Because by trying to control it, you're only going to set yourself up to be disappointed when something is completely out of your control. Which kind of leads me to another point. It's like similar to people pleasing in my head, because trying to control something or a situation or a person is almost a way of manipulation. Well, it is a way of manipulation, but it's also kind of like people pleasing. So you're trying to change them to like make them better. Like in your head, you're like, I'm gonna make this person their fullest potential. Like I'm gonna make them better. But really, you're just kind of like manipulating them into something that you've wanted. So fear of failure, I feel, comes from a deep spot within you where you don't trust yourself enough. Because if you trusted yourself enough, you wouldn't be worried about the outcome. You wouldn't be worried about the outcome because you know that you're going to kill it. You're going to do so good at it. That comes from trust. And I think that comes from growing up and how you were parented. But we can still reverse that now. There's definitely ways you can reverse that now. Just because you're parented wrong for your style of how you portray yourself doesn't mean you can't undo that. It just takes a lot of work. I've been writing in my book and answering questions. And you would think, like, if you're a kid and you're answering these questions, you would have gone through them in like 2 seconds. Because you'd be like, yeah, this is the question. Yeah, that's the answer. I got this. Okay, we got this. We're going to just keep going to the next question. Like, we got this. Oh, yeah, I feel like this, blah, 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 blah. And then you just keep going. And you'd be like, cool. We learned about ourselves today. But as an adult, you're going through the questions and you're thinking about them, and then you're thinking about like the outcome of the question, and you're also thinking about like what that can do to you and if that'll change you and all of these things. And then you're not answering the questions because you're so fearful of writing something down on the page. Now I think that fear of failure comes from us not living in our as our like inner child would. It comes from living up in your head instead of in your heart. Wow. Yeah. It comes from living in your head and not in your heart. Holy. Okay, we're gonna sit with this one for a minute. What's your favorite Starbucks drink? Comment below. I'm kind of like a Starbucks girly. So, I want to know your favorite Starbucks. Tell me. Oh, this pen's getting in the way now. It's such a beautiful day. Like, even though there's kind of like rain clouds all around, it's still sunny. It's beautiful. I think fear of failure comes from I think we really hit the nail on the head with that one. But let's talk about like a few ways that we can counteract that fear of failure, because we don't have to live in that fear. Actually, living in fear is some of the hardest thing for your body to do, because fear is an emotion that is actually very draining and very negative to your body. So let's try and take that fear of failure and turn it around. If you have a fear of failure, let's say the fear of failure is due to a sport. So like, say you're gonna try playing volleyball and you're scared of failing at volleyball, so you haven't gone to volleyball ever because you're just scared that you're gonna get there and you're gonna suck, because that happens to a lot of us. We won't go to something because we're scared. So let's say we break that down. If we're gonna go to a volleyball and we want to learn how to play volleyball, what are the steps? We're gonna first find a place where we can go play volleyball. It's a good first step. And then for a second step, we're just gonna go to the place. That's the second step. You gotta get there. Third step is being vulnerable. You're gonna go in there and you're gonna say, I'm here to play volleyball for whatever team or whatever you sign up for. If it's just a drop-in, you don't really have to tell anyone, I guess. Being vulnerable is saying, hey, this is my first time playing volleyball. And that way, anything you do to learn how to play, there's no expectation put on you. So getting rid of your expectations is another way to get rid of that fear of failure. Because your fear of failure is because you have an expectation. So then you go and you play volleyball. You learn how to set the ball. You learn how to bump the ball. You learn the lines and what they mean and some of the rules. And then you learn how to just do some passing. And then you play a game. When you walk away from that, it wasn't as scary as you thought. Why is that? Why is it not as scary as you thought? Is it because we broke it down into pieces? Is it because we took a different perspective from it and realized that just because you haven't played it in your 30s, that someone's going to judge you for it? I think letting go of fear of failure is by letting go of expectations, letting go of the judgment you think that someone will give you, and being more vulnerable. I think those are the 3 steps to make it easier on you and not have that fear of failure. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe and hit the bell button so you're notified to see any of my next videos. And I also want you to comment if there's something else you want to touch on with around this fear, or around failures, or just around processes to break this down. Did any of these things resonate with you? So I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I'm glad that this video found you. If you are also in your 30s and you feel like no one can relate to you, and you feel like you're just on a different path than someone else, you aren't. You aren't alone. You are so worth it. You are so valued, and you are everything. If no one's told you today, I love you, go do amazing things because you are worth it. You are so worth it. I love you. We'll see you next week.